All right, I'm back with another video. I just picked up my drive shafts for my 4th gen single cab, and I'll tell you a little bit about them. If you're familiar with these 4th gen Ram trucks, I think even the 3rd gens, they got the same front drive shaft. These pickup trucks, the front drive shaft uses the double Cardan joint design. I'm thinking you're supposed to grease these U-joints every 30,000 miles. I think it even tells you inside the, let's see here. I think it even tells you underneath the hood. I think last time I looked underneath the hood, there is a sticker. Yes. Grease front drive shaft at each oil change interval. So you know that doesn't happen for the majority of these trucks. And what happens is these don't get greased every oil change, and they seize up. And when this double Cardan joint seizes up, it wreaks havoc. I mean, I've heard horror stories where this joint will lock up, it'll destroy the transfer case, you know, bust the bell housing on the transmission, your wiring harness down this frame rail. I've seen where wiring harnesses this thing will bust and then get caught in this drive shaft and rip the wiring harness out of the truck. So it could potentially be a bad situation. And what I didn't like about the stock U-joints that were in these two drive shafts was they didn't have any grease erks on them. So like this truck's only got 83,000 miles. I never touched the drive shafts. So I decided, I got a week off work, let me just pull them both and just take them somewhere and have all the U-joints replaced. So that's what I did. I pulled the drive shafts. They were pretty easy to pull. With this being a single cab 8-foot bed, it's just a one-piece drive shaft. And the bolts that were on the rear axle were 15 millimeters. So I used a swivel impact socket to get those off with the Milwaukee. 15 millimeters on the front front axle. And then back here where the double Cardan joint is on the transfer case, I think I used a 16 millimeter. And what was kind of hard about this was there's not enough room to get an impact in there, obviously. So I had to use a pry bar to hold the drive shaft still as I broke them free. And I think they were 16 millimeters. Don't quote me on that though, for sure. But since this truck's not real rusty, I was able to break them free without having to use any heat or anything big. So they come out easy to pull them yourself, and then I just took it somewhere. I've done U-joints before, and it's a toss-up. Sometimes they're easy to replace, and other times you'll fight with it all day. I've just learned spend the money and have a professional do it. They got presses and vices to hold everything, and they've been doing it a while. So the place I took them to in Ohio, if you're in the Dayton region, they even got a shop in Lima, Ohio, if you guys are up that way. Let's look here. This place is called Dayton Clutch and Joint. Now, my dad told me about this place. He'd been going to this place for years, like back in the 80s. So, Dayton Clutch and Joint for all your U-joint and drive shaft needs. I even got a place in Lima. So, to rebuild both drive shafts, labor. So 45, 55, 65, $75 in labor, and $247 in parts. Total being $346.23. Now, I think that was a pretty good deal. I had both these rebuilt. It took me 30 minutes to pull them. They had the drive shafts for a day, and then for $346, they rebuilt both of them with greasable Spicer U-joints. So, and they even replaced the boot. The boot that was in, the boot that's in the middle there, because mine was dry rotted. So, I think if you buy a new drive shaft, you can buy like the new Mopar drive shaft off of Rock Auto, and I think it's $1,000. $1,000 for just a complete drive shaft with the same non-greasable joints. Or if you want to just replace the drive shaft, my next option was, I was debating whether if it was going to cost too much, I was just going to order one of Tom Wood's custom front drive shafts. I mean, you can get one off him for $700, and it's way beefier than this. And in my opinion, you'd be stupid not to buy his drive shaft instead of buying an OEM replacement. But anyways, ended up getting both drive shafts rebuilt for $350. So it's still cheaper than buying a whole new front drive shaft. And now I can service them U-joints. But yeah, if you happen to have one of these trucks and you've never greased the double Cardan joint, a lot of people use a grease gun with like a needle applicator to get in there to grease them. You need to do it, or get the drive shaft rebuilt with greasable joints. So, like I said, the truck's got 83,000 miles. I just did it for peace of mind. So, take that information and do with it as you please, but that was my solution to the issue. So I shouldn't have any drive shaft problems. Didn't really have any vibrations with it. Truck drives good. Front end's all new when I put that Thurn kit on it. So I guess mostly I did this for peace of mind. So if I do end up selling the truck, you know, somebody is going to get a pretty good truck that has been taken care of. So next, for sure, I'll probably have the drive shafts rebuilt in this thing. This thing's only got 109,000 miles, but I've never touched the drive shafts in it, so it's probably due for new U-joints. That truck doesn't have a carrier bearing, I don't think. I think it's a single piece drive shaft. But I'll bring you back a little later when I'm putting these back in. I'll show you how easy it is to reinstall these. Alright, so we're underneath the truck. Got the new, well, not the drive shaft, rebuilt drive shaft down here. And we're going to install it. With it being a single piece drive shaft, it's easy. Shove the one end up into there, and then re-bolt it back here. like again, I said these are 15 millimeters. I'm gonna throw a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads. Anything that spins, especially driveline, I don't expect these to come out anytime soon, so I'm gonna put Loctite on them. Obviously they come with blue Loctite anyways from the factory. And then I used the Milwaukee Impact with a 15 millimeter impact swivel. So I got you kind of set up. I don't know how good you can see. If it's worth putting in the video, I'll leave the footage in. Drive shaft is definitely not light. But we'll feed this end up into here. What the heck? Thing's about to die, I think. Okay. So there you go there. I gotta take the truck out of gear because I left it in gear. So we got this end all shoved up in there. This is a good time to check your seal and make sure it ain't busted, which mine ain't. I took it out of gear, so now it spins and we can line up the back end. Got it in there, spins, and now we can line up the back end with this. All right, replace the battery. I'm gonna set you back up. Tried to at least. I don't have a decent tripod, so about all I can do is kind of set you up like that. I'll have to bear with me. I'm not a professional YouTuber, I'm a truck driver. Okay. So I'm gonna take these back out and put some Loctite on them. I don't normally like using Loctite, especially being in Ohio, because we got the natural Loctite of rust, but I would assume I should be all right with these. And you don't need to go ham on it. A little bit goes a long ways. All right, that's about empty. So we got the one end in. Just get it lined up like that. And obviously, you want to hand start these. Just don't be picking up the impact and sending them home. That's how you cross thread stuff. So I got that one started. Obviously you ain't gonna be able to spin that around because the wheels are on the ground. But there's normally plenty enough room to get in there. Get that one. Probably can't see nothing because I'm blocking. Like I said, bear with me. I'm not a professional YouTuber. Alrighty, so I got the one end slid in there. Bolts back in with a light talk, hand started. With Loctite, hand started. I'm gonna do a crisscross pattern. So I did the bottom left one, and like I said, an impact swivel socket comes in clutch here. And I know there's probably torque specs to this, but I'm going to use the German torque wrench, good and tight, and call it good. Even though I got a real nice snap-on digital torque wrench. And heck, we might as well check the torque specs, damn it. No, guilty conscience. Let me look it up. Impact swivel socket. Run them all in a crisscross pattern. I'm going to check the torque spec, grab my torque wrench. Alright, so everything I'm seeing online is saying 85 foot-pounds. Which seems right because they're usually pretty tight to get off. This digital torque wrench is pretty nice. What did I say, 85? Yeah, I think that was right, 85. Seems right to me. I'll set you back up. There. 85 foot-pounds. Now, who knows, I might already went over that with the impact. Yeah, I'll probably do a crisscross pattern. Probably ain't the best to do this with the swivel and all these extensions, but that will. That will. I've never claimed to be an expert. Let me take one of these extensions off. One thing about this half-inch deal, it's kind of a pain in the butt maneuver. I need a 3/8 one. So let's 85. little over on that one, but you get the gist. 85-ish foot-pounds. I used Loctite, and we'll move to the front drive shaft. It's in there, bolted and torqued in there. You can see the greasable U-joints on each end. I'm not going to show you on that end, but it is. And we'll install the front drive shaft. Now a lot of guys just run the Bluetooth drive shaft. You don't use four-wheel drive a lot, just leave it out, but I got the greasable joints put in, so we'll throw it back in. Okay, now we're up front. So the front of the drive shaft there goes to there. Those are 15 millimeters as well. The double Cardan joint goes back to the transfer case, which is here, and these are 16 inches. 16 millimeters ish. So, and then you gotta use a wrench. So, bam, bam. I'll bring you back when I get it put in there. So this was a little bit of a bear to wrestle back up in there. What I did was I didn't bolt that side up yet. Leave that last. I got one bolt started. One bolt hand started. Then I was able to rotate this up and get another one across the way started. Now it's hard to do by yourself. This drive shaft's really heavy, but it should get it close enough to where you can finish hand starting these. So start with the transfer case side first, then you can do that end last. So I got all four of them started. Obviously I can spin it around. Now this is where your ratcheting wrench would come in handy. So I got a ratcheting wrench. Because you ain't got enough room to get a socket in there, obviously. But get this just to run it the rest of the way down quicker. So do that one. And kind of like I did crisscross pattern, do the one across the way the same way. Just get them hand tight for now. Obviously that's not the torque yet. Get this last one. And then I'll show you how I'm going to hold this drive shaft to where I can finish tightening these. Alright, so obviously can't tighten it too much because it wants to spin. We got that side in. Now why I say to save this side for last is because then it's going to be easier for you to hold the drive shaft and manipulate the front yoke to where you need it, as I just did with one hand. Like that. So you'll be able to turn it to where you need it, you see? You fucker. You get what I'm saying. Right there. And then run your bolts in by hand and tighten it up. Same tactic as the rear. We'll do crisscross. I did that one. I'll do this upper one. I hand started these to make sure they weren't cross-threading. And the last one. So make sure it's sitting flush. Looks good. I'm going to 85 foot-pounds. And then I'm just going to hand tighten these back here. So this is what I did. This is what I did to loosen these. So when I went to loosen these, and I got lucky. This truck's not rusty. Didn't have to put no heat on it or nothing. I ran this pry bar up in between here. Up in between, you see it way up there, and as I rotated it, I held it up against whatever. I put it in between these bolts, whatever, until I was able to get these hand tightened. Of course, I can't videotape it because I need 2 hands. Now, what you want to be careful when you're doing this on your reinstallation is you don't get up into that boot that's in the middle here, where my finger's right there, that rubber boot. You tear that boot like I just had it replaced. You tear it, then you're back to square one. So you shove your pry bar up in there, use it to hold it from spinning. There's probably a better way. You could probably engage the transfer case or something. I don't know. Whatever. This is the way I did it. I held it with one hand and tightened with the other. That's how I even broke it loose. That's how I'm going to tighten it back up. 85 foot-pounds up there. Hold it and just hand tight as hard as I can with a wrench here. If you're not strong enough to hold it with one hand and wrench with the other, you could kind of pry it in there like that. Had that pry bar, let the bolts hold it. Again, being careful where you're jabbing that up in there. And then I'll be able to crank on this with my wrench, tighten it. And then you just rotate and repeat with the other. So I used my German Turk wrench on that. Got them good and tight, nice and smooth. Torqued those to 85 foot-pounds, and that's it. Overall, pretty easy. You got any questions? Leave a comment. I'll try to answer it the best I can. Like I said, I don't claim to be a professional. And I know the video might be shaky and a little discombobulated, but I did the best I can with filming it on my phone. So there you go. Double Cardan joint, front U-joint, front drive shaft, rear drive shaft rebuilt for my 4th gen Cummins single cab.